Let's get right to where we need to get to, which is picking up where we left off, which is point number 4 of our mini series here on the power of showing up. And what we're talking about here is what happens when you show up. What are the benefits of you showing up more consistently for those of you who have had some issues with showing up, or you haven't been able to properly motivate yourself to the actions that lead to the disciplines of showing up. Point number 4, this is how momentum is created. Let's remember what momentum is. Momentum is the energy that is created once you get into motion that is easier to maintain than it is to create. So once we create it, it's easier to just let it keep going. I talked about momentum in episode 1324, how to create and keep momentum. Understand that momentum is one side of a two-sided coin known as the law of inertia. And the definition of momentum is the quantity of motion of a moving body measured as a product of its mass and velocity, or the impetus gained by a moving object. The law of inertia states that an object in motion remains in motion, or an object not in motion stays not in motion until or unless acted upon by an outside force, which in simple terms means if you're doing nothing, it's easier to keep doing nothing than to start doing something. And conversely, if you're doing something, it's easier to keep doing that something than it is to stop doing the thing that you're doing. Whatever state you're already in, is easier to just keep doing that than it is to change your state. Change requires more energy than maintenance. Simple as that. So once you are able to get yourself moving, you are creating momentum for yourself. And once you get into that momentum, especially if it's a positive momentum, I'm assuming that you showing up somewhere is a positive momentum for you. It's easier to just keep showing up. And again, this is why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. By the way, people who are poor tend to keep doing things to keep them poor, and people who are rich tend to keep doing things to keep them rich. The law of inertia, I just explained that to you. It takes an outside force to change the situation. Most people, by definition, are lazy. I told you people are lazy. They don't think and they don't read. So again, once you get into a state, you're usually going to stay there. So once you get into a momentum, it's easier to just let it keep going than it would be to do anything to change it or to even allow it to be changed. So if you can build the habit of showing up for something that you see as positive for your future, it's easier to just keep doing that than it would be to not show up anymore. So which is why people who show up tend to keep showing up. People who don't show up tend to not keep showing up. And I tell you, I work out all the time. I go to gyms every day. And in the gym, there are certain people I see all the time, a handful of people rather, I see all the time. And then there's a whole bunch more people, the other 95% of people in the gym, who I see now and then, a few days, every once in a while, and then I never see them again, or I've never seen them before. When I go to the gym tomorrow, I'm gonna see somebody I never saw before, and after tomorrow, I will never see them again. This is how it works. I remember this guy came up to me in the gym. This had to be about maybe about 7 months ago, and he's a black guy. He was probably a little bit older than me. He's probably around 50, and I'm 42 years of age, by the way, and he came up to me. I was just finishing my warm up, and he said, "Man, I got to ask you. I see you doing your stuff because there's certain ways that I warm up every time I come to the gym." And I would always see him in the same spot. He would be on this cardio equipment that's like right behind the place where I do my warm up. And he said, "I see you doing your thing over there, and I see you working out, and I see." And then he pointed towards my stomach because when I go in the boxing gym, I have a shirt on. So he pointed towards my stomach. He was like, "Man, how can I get that?" He was tapping his own stomach, and his stomach was significantly larger than mine. Let's just put it that way. He was saying, "How can I get mine to look like that?" And I just told him a couple things. I told him that I never stopped working out, that I've always worked out, and I never had a period where I didn't work out, and I'd show up to the gym all the time. And I emphasized that to him as well. And he said, "Yeah, that's my problem, man. I almost show up all the time. I'm inconsistent, not showing up, this and that, and whatever reasons he gave for not showing up." And he kept showing up. I kept seeing him for about a month after that, but I told you this is about 7 months ago. So since 6 months ago, guess what? I ain't seen that guy. I don't know where he is. Don't know what happened to him. Maybe he moved. Maybe he got injured. Hopefully he's still alive. I ain't seen him. And this is exactly what I mean. Okay, so when you're used to doing something every day, it's easier to find your way to doing it, even when you don't feel like doing it, because you built the habit. Habits are very strong and they're very hard to break. Just like bad habits are hard to break, so are good habits. Good habits are hard to break too. It's hard for you to not do a thing that you built up years of momentum of actually doing. So your job is to make sure that the things you build up momentum in doing are things that you actually want rather than the things that you don't want. And the other thing that you can do to help build this momentum and this discipline is plug into structures and systems that allow you to produce the discipline in the things in which you want to build momentum. So since we're talking about working out, I like to use this as an example because all of you understand it. This doesn't go over anybody's head. Even if you don't work out, you understand the concept that if you need to build the discipline of working out, but it's hard for you to do it on your own, hire a personal trainer And that trainer will represent the discipline that you need. They'll represent, the structure that you need for you to actually show up, because you paid them. You're probably going to show up for the workout, or maybe you're paying them to come to your house and they'll come and do the workout. They'll tell you what to do, when to do it, how to stop doing it, what to do next. All right, here's what you can eat. Here's what you can't eat. All right, I'll see you next time, 3 days from now, when we have our next workout. So the trainer provides the structure for you. So any of you have any problem providing structure for yourself to be disciplined, all you need to do is plug into some type of expert who already is providing structure to others. You can be one of the next people who gets provided structure, and just plug in to what they tell you to do. Is there anyone who can't do this? No, there's no one who can't do this. Any of you can do this. And understand, this applies in any aspect of life. If you would like to be more structured with what you're doing with your finances, go find someone who helps people structure their finances. Find out what system or structure they use, pay for it if you need to pay for access to it, and do what the hell the structure tells you to do. Again, any aspect of life, there is a process for doing this. If you are a single man or woman and you want to find an ideal man or woman to spend the rest of your life with, go find a person who does this. There's a whole industry of people who do this, and plug into their structure. They will find out who you are. They'll interview you. They'll see what you're about. They'll probably give you some tips on what you need to do to improve yourself for the type of person that you want. And then they will show you, or maybe even provide for you, the type of people who you are trying to meet, and see if there's anyone who likes you and you like them. Again, there's structures for everything, folks. Anything you want to achieve that you have thus far failed to achieve on your own volition, don't beat yourself up about it. Instead, fix the problem by plugging into someone who already has a structure that you need not create on your own. Here's the thing that you all need to understand. Even though this show is called Work on Your Game, working on your game does not mean you must do all the work yourself. Work on your game doesn't say you have to work on your game. There's a part of your game you have to work on, but there's certain aspects of your game that you probably shouldn't take care of. I don't remember the last time I created an entire meal just for myself from stuff that I went to the store, bought, cooked, and prepared. I can't remember the last time I did that for me. But I eat every day, guaranteed. There hasn't been a day I have not eaten since you have heard of my name. Right, not one. But I still figure out a way to eat every single day, even though I don't do it myself. So you can plug into things and people who can do stuff that you don't need to do. Does everyone understand this? Okay, many of you consume content, but you don't create content. But that doesn't mean the content's not out there. You can plug into somebody else's content. You don't have to be a creator if you don't want to be. You don't have to be a chef if you don't want to be. You don't have to be an auto mechanic, but if your car, something goes wrong with the car, you can bring it somewhere that the car can get fixed. So working on your game does not mean you have to do everything on your own. Do not misconstrue the concept. Point number, and actually one more thing on this, is the smartest people work on their game and they do all the work in the areas in which they are experts. And then they pass off the work in areas in which they're not experts to everybody else. So the question is, what are you doing? Are you trying to do things in which you are not an expert, thus costing yourself time because it will take you longer to get the right result because you don't know what you're doing, and also costing yourself the opportunity cost of the things that you could be doing if you would focus on the things you're actually good at, which ain't the thing you're doing right now. So you're costing yourself on both ends when you try to do everything on your own. Moving on to point number 5. Today's topic, once again, is the power of showing up, the benefits you get from showing up. Number 5, you build a reputation for reliability, which is a great thing to have because most people are, what's the word, class? The opposite. Most people are unreliable. You have no idea what you're going to get from most people on a consistent basis. So if you can build a reputation for reliability, you separate yourself from everybody else. I told you earlier in this series about the law of contrast. And this law of contrast can work in every aspect of life because, as I've told you before, if you look around and see what everybody else is doing and just do the opposite of that, you're setting yourself up for a wild level of success. Why? Because most people are average. And since you're listening to a show called Work on Your Game, I'm talking to you under the assumption that you don't want to be average, that that's not your aim. Even if you are average right now, you don't want to stay average. So I'm telling you exactly how to get out of Averageville. Just look around at what everybody else is doing and stop doing it. Do the opposite of that. Okay, just do the opposite of what everybody else does. Everybody else shows up right at the moment that things are set to begin. You show up 15 minutes early. Can you do that? This is a legitimate question. I'm going to take a sip of water so you can process the question. Can you just start showing up 15 minutes early for everything you're supposed to do? Do you need extra money to do that? Do you need a different car to do that? Do you need to be born in a different country to do that? Do you need to be a different race, gender, religion, height, in a different industry, living in a different city, in order for you to do that? Can you just show up 15 minutes early for every single thing that you do? Now, you may be wondering, oh, Dre, why are you just randomly bringing up showing up 15 minutes early? Because most people don't do it. Okay, if you could just show up 15 minutes early for everything you do, I'm just giving you a simple thing you can start doing right now that most people don't do. As a matter of fact, now that I'm talking about it, here's what I'm going to do. Let me tell you what I'm going to do for you. Okay, I'm going to do an entire episode. It might become a series because I might have multiple things, and I'm writing it down right now in my notes. Things you can do. And I'm literally writing this down to separate yourself from the average masses. Okay, and the first point is going to be show up early. All right, so I'm telling you right now, one of my future episodes when this comes out, you already know point number one is going to be show up early. I'm going to do a whole series just on this alone because there's a whole lot that I could tell you here. So let's continue here. We're still on point number 5. Topic again, we're on part 2 of our 2-part mini series, The Power of Showing Up. The way you use the law of contrast, I've said this enough times that I guess I got to say it one more time. Look around at what the average people are doing and just do the opposite of them. That'll set you up for success. Now, here's the rub to doing the opposite of the average person is that what average people do is usually what you want to do, is what your emotions want you to do, because what average people do is usually the easiest, most convenient thing to do. This is why average people are average, and not because they're trying to be low quality people or anything like that. It's because they do what is the easiest and most convenient thing. And guess what? Most of the time, you do the easiest and most convenient thing. I'm suggesting that you stop doing that. All right, this is how you can stand out. So you got to push yourself to not do what your subconscious mind and your just human nature wants to do, which is, again, the easy, convenient thing. Do the other thing. Do the hard thing. See, if everyone is always late, you can be early. That separates you. If everyone sits in the back of the room, sit in the front of the room. That separates you. When I was in college, one of my coaches said, every class that you're in, sit in the first 3 rows of the classroom. That shows the teacher that you're serious. Don't be the stereotypical athlete sitting in the back of the room not paying attention. The good thing about the law of contrast is that it always works to make you stand out, because all you're doing is contrasting what everybody else does and doing something different. You're always going to stand out when you use the law of contrast. You just got to figure out which way you want to use it. So for this point, that means being dependable, reliable, consistent, and someone who builds a reputation as a person who can be called on and depended on to deliver what they're asked to do. That's it. Can you just deliver when you're called on? If you can do that, you can build a reputation. That's a good reputation to have. The good news about this, folks, is that you don't have to be consistent for 10 years to have a reputation for consistency, because you have such little competition. You can be consistent for 2 weeks. You can build a reputation. Maybe, depending on the industry you're in, 2 weeks might be enough. 10 weeks, definitely enough, guaranteed. Point number 6. Today's topic, once again, is part 2 of our 2-part mini series, The Power of Showing Up. Number 6, compounding success. This is what happens when you start to show up consistently. Your successes start to build on top of each other, and your success begins to, instead of expand via addition, it starts to multiply via multiplication, and it starts to grow exponentially, because each success is building on each other. So any of you who knows anything about the financial world or just mathematics period, you understand the value of compounding. Compounding means you're not just adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You start multiplying and you start growing by exponents rather than just by additions. And that's when the growth can start to get crazy in a positive way. So one of the key ways to trigger a breakthrough in life is to stack good habits on top of each other. And if you build the habits of working out, let's say, for example, consistently, drinking more water, cutting out junk food, cutting alcohol out of your diet, getting more consistent sleep, eating more fruits and vegetables, if you do all of those at the same time, then the compounding effect of all of these positive habits will create a fast quantum change in your physical health that will produce a result a lot faster than the pace that many people are on who are trying to get healthy right now. See, there's people out there in the world who are trying to get healthy by, okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to start working on my sleep for 3 months. Then when I get done doing that, then I'm going to start working out consistently. Then after that, I'm going to start drinking more water. Then I'm going to cut out junk food when I'm comfortable with it. Then eventually I might stop drinking alcohol. Then I'll get more and more consistent sleep. And then I might start eating fruits and vegetables more often than I'm eating ice cream and potato chips. And see, they're doing it one at a time. And that's why their process takes so long. See, if you made all the changes all at the same time, then the results will start happening at the same time. This is what we call compounding success. And I talked about this in the episode on the phenomenon. We'll get to that in a moment. So when you put all the positive habits together all at the same time, you can start getting multiplications of results. So this slow stair-step process that many of you are operating by in whatever aspect of your life right now, it doesn't have to be that way. It can be that way if you keep operating the way that you're currently operating, but I'm giving you the formula for changing it. All you got to do is make it happen quickly by stacking all the habits at once. Stop doing things one at a time, do them all at once. Can I say that again? Stop doing things one at a time and do them all at once. Let me say it one more time. Stop doing things one at a time and do them all at once. This is how you start to create explosions in success rather than lighting a little match of success. When you do this, your success starts to compound, and this applies again anywhere in life. Doesn't matter who you are or what you do. In episode 2874, I talked about triggering the phenomenon. If you'd like to hear more detail on this, what we call the phenomenon is the rapid change that occurs when you stack a bunch of good actions on top of each other, all at the same time. To everyone, this is available. The concept applies across the board. The hard part is you moving yourself to the actions, because really you don't even need discipline to do this. You need motivation to do it, to get started. Motivation gets you started, then you turn the motivation into discipline. And if you were wondering, the answer is yes. I do have an episode on how to turn motivation into discipline. Let me tell you where it is. That was episode number 1784, turning motivation into discipline. So all that said, let's recap today's class, which is part 2 of our 2-part mini-series on the power of showing up. Number 4, this is how you create momentum. When you show up consistently, you start creating momentum. You do anything positive consistently, you create momentum. This applies to anything you do negative too, but I'm assuming you want to do positive things. Number 5, you build a reputation for reliability, which is a great thing to have because it separates you from most people, because most people are not reliable. Most people are not dependable. Most people are extremely inconsistent. So if you can build a reputation for just doing anything consistently when you're called on, you're separating yourself from a majority of your competition just on that trait alone. Number 6, compounding success. This is how you trigger the phenomenon when you take a bunch of things that you know you want to do in life, and instead of doing them, let me do this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, instead do all 20 of them all at the same time. That's how you start to get rapid quantum changes in life. And if you want to know how people seem to make these big jumps of success in life, I just gave it to you in that last point. All right, so listen to it again. And go listen to the episode where I talked about the phenomenon, which is episode number 2874. All the things you want to do, put them all in motion at the same time instead of putting them all in motion one at a time, each in motion one at a time. WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com. You want to learn and have me coach you on how to actually start triggering this phenomenon in your personal everyday life, in your business life, professionally, entrepreneurially, in your fitness life, in your mindset life, and any other aspect in between. Go to WorkOnYourGameUniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all